In this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys the basics of UHC PvP on 1.9+. Even if you are not a beginner, make sure to stick around until the end because you might learn something new. I'm also racing Eximity to 10,000 subscribers and he currently has a lead, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be splitting this tutorial into 4 major sections: game settings, melee, secondaries, and healing. Additionally, I'm going to be showing you guys a secret technique at the end of the video, so make sure you stay till the end. Something that is easily overlooked is the settings of your game. I'm going to be showing you guys the important settings to change for UHC. First, you should be using a PvP client such as Lunar or Feather client. I personally prefer Feather client and I'll link it down below. Once you get your client, open up Minecraft, go to settings, click controls, and then click keybinds. Scroll down until you see hotbar slot 1 through 9. Now what you want to do is you're going to bind hotbar slot 5/6 through 9 to a button that you can click really fast. Each key should be associated with the importance of an item in your hotbar. For example, I have my lava binded to button 5, which is my fastest hotkey. You should have your webs and lava in your fastest hotkeys, but it is important that you click those keys with the same finger or you will not be able to strafe while secondary. For example, you should use your lava and web binded to 2 hotkeys that are like relatively close to each other, like let's say X and F. This is because when you click X and F, you'll be using your pointer finger for both of those hotkeys, meaning you still can strafe using the A key with your ring finger. The reason why I don't do this is because I have my hotkey binded to a mouse button, which I highly recommend because you can use 2 different fingers and still be able to strafe, allowing for fast hotkeying and strafing at the same time. Next, I'll be going over some graphic settings that will help improve your gameplay. As you can see, the before and after looks much nicer and gives you way more screen visibility. To get the lower shield, download the Shield Corrections resource pack in the description. Additionally, to get the low fire, go into your Feather client graphic settings and lower the fire height. If you are not using Feather, I'll link a low fire resource pack below. The last setting that you want to change is your hurt cam. The default hurt cam shakes your screen way too much, so you will want to reduce it or turn it off completely. You can do this in the Feather Animations mod tab. I personally keep mine on 0.6. Before we get into the actual fighting portion of this video, I want to go over some general terms that will be important to remember throughout this video. The first term is called an encounter. An encounter happens when the players attack each other using melee after having some distance forward. The next term is called the first encounter. The first encounter is just the very first encounter of the game, as you can see here. The next term is called disengaging. Disengaging is exiting an encounter by putting some distance between you and your opponent. This is most effectively done by hitting them away or disabling their shield and then shooting their crossbow. The next term is a stun. A stun refers to the double click technique used to disable shields. I'll link a tutorial to how to stun in the description of this video. The final term is the cooldown trick. The cooldown trick is a method of disabling shields quickly and effectively. I'll also link a tutorial on how to do this in the description. Before I go into detail about melee, we'll first be getting into the general knowledge of a UHC 1v1. First things first is that you should start the match by reloading your crossbow and eating a gap. This is called pre-gapping, and it's useful because having higher health when starting the match can let you pressure more at the beginning of the game. Gaps heal 2 hearts and give 2 absorption hearts, adding up to an extra of 4 hearts. In the UHC kit, a sword should do around 1 to 1.5 hearts, and an axe 1.5 to 2 hearts. The crossbow does around half a heart, and the bow ranges from 1 heart to 2 hearts. In the UHC kit, you have 4 water buckets, 2 lava buckets, and 16 arrows. Your water and lava buckets should be located at the top middle of your screen, as this is where your cursor will default to when you open your inventory, allowing for easy access when you get drained or just need another lava or water. Now that you have the proper settings and basic knowledge of UHC, I'll now be going into detail about melee and how to use it in UHC properly. Your melee consists of these items in your hotbar, but I'll be expanding this out to your crossbow and bow, which altogether is your primary weapons. The first thing to know when it comes to melee is spacing. While a player can hit you from 3 blocks away, their range is much larger because you have to add the sprint jump towards you that they can do, which adds up to about 7 blocks. Learning this range is mostly from experience, and a good way to get good spacing fast is by practicing sword PvP. Once you start to learn this spacing, one of the best ways to use it is by baiting your opponent by moving into the range, then backing out, causing them to jump at you, and then sprint jumping at them while they are midair, which will give you a free first crit. As you can see, I move in, back out, then I jump at him and crit after he jumps at me. Now getting into when you should use the axe, you should be using the axe in 3 main situations. Number 1 is the first encounter, right when you go in for the first hit. An effective way to start the match is to go for a crit with the axe. It's important that you remember to use proper spacing or this could be used against you. The second situation is when someone puts their shield up mid-encounter, which means after you've already hit them at least once with the sword, then you want to use the cooldown tricks, which I have a tutorial on, to disable their shield. For disabling shields, I personally predict when they are going to put it up from experience, but I know players who reaction time it, so do whatever fits you best. The last situation is when you're about to enter a new encounter, because if you disengage the previous encounter effectively, you should have time to charge your axe up and use it just like you would in the first encounter. When it comes to the sword, newer players should just focus on crit chaining as it's easy to do and can be pretty effective. If you practice sword, you can implement other techniques you have learned after disabling the shield. You should always use your sword after switching from a separate item. For example, pull your sword out after you lava someone or just disable their shield with the axe. When it comes to the crossbow, you should reload your crossbow when you have a lot of distance between you and your opponent and save it for when you need to disengage. And the only time I really recommend using the bow is right after disengaging. But overall, I do not use the bow that much. And lastly, the most important thing when it comes to melee is your shield timing by far. The way to properly time your shield is block as much as possible before and after your hits, and delaying your hits so they hit your shield before you hit. Delaying how long you block your shield before you hit can punish people who try to predict when your shield goes down. Now that we're done with the melee section, we're going to be moving on to the secondary section, which is really what makes UHC UHC. Secondaries consist of these items in your hotbar and are some of the most important items in the kit. These items can help assist you in fighting and getting away. The main use of lava is to force your opponent to water themselves, giving you an opportunity to get free hits in. Webs are used to hold your opponent in place, giving you an opportunity to get free hits in. They can both also be used to give you a chance to run away. I'm going to be teaching you guys some of the best ways to use your secondaries. The first secondary strategy is the S hold lava. You hold S when your opponent jumps at you and place lava under their feet. The next secondary strategy is the S hold web. Similarly, you will hold S when your opponent jumps at you, but this time you're going to jump up and web, giving you an angle to place lava on top of the web. An important note to secondaries is that after almost every lava I will place a web in front of my opponent because they are likely to walk into it after watering themselves. A lava dunk involves critting your opponent into lava. This is good for mid crit chain or when your opponent is about to finish eating their gap. Similar to the lava dunk, a web dunk is when you crit your opponent into a web, which is one of the most effective ways to web someone. After crossbowing someone, it is good to lava them because the crossbow stops their movement, making lava placement really easy. This is called a crossbow lava. A stun web is when you stun your opponent, launching them into the air and then placing a web under their feet. A side note is that this is much easier at an angle, so you should jump to their side when you're going to attempt a stun web. A water dunk is a strategy used for getting away by critting your opponent, then placing water on the ground and leaving it there so they can't chase you. Do not try to hold S and then water, or your opponent will likely place blocks under their feet. When someone webs you, it is best to try to hit them away before you water because you'll be punished less. Additionally, if you get lava mid-encounter, do not water yourself until you disengage or you will be crit out while trying to water yourself. While secondary is very useful, a common mistake is when players overuse their secondaries and end up taking a lot more damage than they are dealing. Secondaries are used to accommodate your melee, and you should be meleeing way more than you secondary. The faster you are at switching back to your sword, the more you can secondary, but if you are a beginner, you should focus on melee a lot more than your secondaries. Now that we are done with the secondaries, all we have left is healing and then the secret technique used only by the top players. Healing refers to the golden apples and when you use them. Don't heal if you have 9 hearts or more. If you're losing in health, disengage whenever you're close to dropping below half health and gap. Avoid getting hit while you're gapping. This is one of the most common mistakes that I see. You should only gap after creating distance between you and your opponents. This can be done by using secondaries and then running away. If they start eating a gap while you can hit them, use a knockback hit instead of a crit right before they finish eating their gap. This will give you distance and put you in a good position. Now that we have finished the healing section, I'm going to be revealing the secret tip that even a bunch of top players do not know about. There is a trick to avoid getting hit while you're gapping. After you disengage, start eating your gap as a bait, and when they get close, turn around and hotkey to your sword without letting go of right click. This will create an invisible shield glitch on your opponent's POV, causing them to fail to disable your shield and giving you free hits. If you stayed till the end, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. If this video does well, I'll upload a part 2 soon.